welcome to Blue Jays Today, where we always have something to say about the Blue Jays. I'm your host, Nicholas Playlog.
And I'm your host, Adam Peddle. And today we're going to be doing our first ever Q&A session. We asked you guys on our... We asked you guys on our Instagram and Twitter to send us in your questions, and we've got a whole list of them right here.
Yeah, you guys really popped off on this one. Thank you. I'm pretty excited about this, so...
Yeah, we really want to engage with you guys more, and this is just another way for us to kind of engage with you guys on our actual podcast rather than just social media. So let's dive into it, shall we?
Let's dive in, but before we do, please make sure to subscribe and like. You know, the shameless plug. You always got to do it off the top of the video. So let's get into it.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's start with our first question. I think that this one's super topical, considering that he pitched literally today. We were going for the sweep also, guys. We're recording this video right after we just took a loss to the New York Yankees. Sadly, it was a 7-2 loss. It wasn't ideal. It wasn't our best performance. And pitching in that game was Tanner Roark. The question comes from capital_city_sports. How do y'all feel about Tanner Roark? How do you feel about Tanner Roark?
I mean, well, in his last, we signed him to be an innings guy and a command guy, and to give us that consistency. And really, over this season, just in general, he hasn't been great at all. His command, just watching the games, has been way off, but his barrel percentage is it is huge. It is bottom 6% of the league right now at 13.3%, which is just bad. And every time I see this guy out, he's just not good. His ERA is definitely inflated up to 5.6. I think that's even before today's game, so it's probably even more now.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm looking at he's the sort of guy who relies on all 5 pitches, and what I love about this baseball savant, that what we're looking at right now, is it tells us exactly the percentages to what pitches he throws. And even at his lowest pitch, his changeup, he's throwing that 14.3% of the time, which is very sizable. Now, looking at in 2020, I'm going to read you guys off the batting averages of his pitches. So this is the batting averages of, people against his pitches. His four-seam fastball, 351. His sinker, 355. His slider, 333. His curve, 386. And his changeup, the pitch that he throws the least amount, is 231. That's not good.
So his batting average against has got to be messed up.
It's definitely, when you look at that, it is definitely far above. It is far above 300.
And here's the thing: we literally watched the game today.
The command was all over the place.
It's it's either way out of the zone or it's literally over the heart of the plate. I've seen a couple pitches, he threw a couple curveballs literally on the edge. That was probably his best pitch I saw tonight. But here's the thing: Tanner Roark, I think he's getting it phased out when it comes time for postseason. Tanner Roark's going to be not in the starting rotation.
I don't want him there, man.
He's not going to be there.
No, he can't, because he's just so inconsistent. And yes, you're right. He does occasionally throw a really nice pitch, but a broken clock is right twice a day. And I think that's what this is with Tanner Roark, is, he peppers it all over the place. Occasionally, he gets one that's really good. Yeah. But I don't think that we can count on this guy when it matters, considering that his ERA is 5.6.
Unless he does something miracle next year in a full 162-game season, he's just not going to be in the team when we're going on to play World Series games and playoff games. And he's not going to be there. Yeah. He's not going to be there when we're playing.
Completely agree. We're going to move on, but I just want to toss out one interesting stat right now. I love how they also give the percentile rankings, and this is for 2020. But he's in the ranked 12th, in the 12th percentile in the MLB for expected ERA. Yeah, that's horrible. He's in the 10th percentile in expected slugging. That's horrible. It's just really bad across the board.
That barrel percentage is horrible too in the 6th percentile. That's just horrible. That's horrible.
Agreed. Okay, so I think it'd be cool to transition to another pitching question since we're on it right now. And Mantle Doe He asks a cool question. He says, who's your ideal 7th, 8th, and 9th inning guy? Can I answer this right off the top?
Sure.
Garrett Cole, Max Scherzer, Jacob DeGrom.
I mean, if we had those guys in our 7th, 9th, and 8th, who the hell is starting pitching for us?
Yeah, it's a mishmash of Bieber, Verlander, and some other guy. Who knows?
But yeah, I mean, for me, that's an easy one. Expecting that we're going to have a healthy team. For right now, I would say it would go for me Dolis.
I really like Dolis.
It would go Anthony Bass, and then it'd go Jordan Romano. Okay, and now you're thinking maybe where's Ken Giles? I just literally haven't seen this guy enough this year, and I think the bullpen has gotten to a groove that like Ken Giles now has to work his way back into that closing role, and they've even said that he's not going to be the closer when he comes back. So he's going to have to find his place in that bullpen. But right now, I would say definitely Dolis, Anthony Bass, and Jordan Romano when healthy. If Jordan Romano's not in the lineup, then yeah, Ken Giles is going to be given that one of those roles.
Yeah,
7th or 8th.
I really like Dolis. Bass I like. I don't know why. I just trust Dolis more. I think that like it's so tough because we have a lot of guys right now that I want in that closing spot. Like obviously Ken Giles is super talented, and Romano showed that he has the stuff. Both are injured right now, and both, hopefully, I heard rumors that Ken Giles could be back as soon as, like this weekend.
Yeah.
So that would be awesome. But yeah, like I think, okay, like if all of these guys are healthy and performing at the level to which I think they can perform, I think my ideal would be maybe Dolis, Romano, Giles, or some form of those guys, if they were all at the level that we think. Right. But you're so right. We do need to phase him back in.
Yeah.
And hopefully he comes back and is lights out.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, that would just give us more positive problems in the bullpen, because then I was like, but wait, what about Anthony Bass?
Right.
So then you could almost do this in a situation. If you're going back-to-back days where you're trying to get W's, you could do one of these situations. You can go Dolis in the 8th, and then you can go Giles in the 9th. And then on another day when you're trying to win, you could go Anthony Bass in the 8th, and then Romano in the 9th. Yeah. You have 4 closers in the bullpen.
And that's the thing. Dolis can close games as well. He closed one out the other day and did an excellent job.
Yeah.
Like, it was like 3 up, 3 down, and really good job from him.
We have 4 guys who can close game. And even AJ Cole you could toss into that mix of like when we need someone to be a setup, you could toss AJ Cole. You could toss Hatch. You could toss a lot of guys in that position.
Totally agree.
Is a unit, but those are what we think would be our ideal 7th, 8th, and 9th guys.
Would absolutely agree, brother. What hasn't been super great for us so far, though, has been the starting pitching, and we've talked about that on a couple other podcasts. So I have one question here from KC_Coughlin, and he asks, and this is about free agency coming up. He says, is Trevor Bauer and George Springer 2 players the Jays should go after in free agency? And what do you think?
Yeah, of course. Like George Springer would bring that veteran presence that we need, and coming into the season, we needed outfield. Our outfield has been good. I mean, we have Hernandez, you have Gurriel, and then Grichuk has shown signs of positive enforcement with that approach, but has been kind of falling off lately. So it wouldn't hurt to get that another veteran presence to just give them more stability in the lineup.
Wow.
And then,
I mean, you're also understating the fact that George Springer is like really, really good too. Veteran presence, but like also
really
like a great player overall.
He's in the top percentiles in a lot of things.
In a lot of stuff, he is struggling a little bit with the average this year, but I would like to point out that his expected batting average is 287. So even though his regular season batting average is 244, that indicates that he is getting extremely, extremely unlucky so far this year.
And I think if you look at like Houston, like are they going to look to sign this guy back? I mean, they had their years, they had their window, and now with the scandal, and now that we're literally better than them this year,
So far,
and their pitching has been injured, and the pitching used to be one of their best things, and it's been not as good. Their offense is just one of their best things, not as good.
Right.
So, just, getting George Springer back, getting George Springer on a free agent contract would be really ideal.
It is something to state though that like George Springer would be expensive. He would be expensive. Yeah. I don't remember exactly what deal he's on right now, but I think it's something like the $20 million range. Mm-hmm. And I can only imagine that he's going to command, similar to that, maybe even more money in the free agent. Like he's age 30, so he's going to want to cash in, sort of like Rendon did last year. He won't command something like Rendon, but he's still going to command like a lot of money. And I think if we were going to dole out money, I would prefer to target a Trevor Bauer. Like he also is going to be a bit of a veteran presence. And if you look at some of the numbers that he's put up this season, he struggled a bit last year, but so far this year he has been so dominant. 2.05 ERA. He struck out 61 through 44 innings. He's got a whip of under 1 at 0.86. He's high in expected ERA, 97th percentile. He's high in expected slugging, 92 percentile. He's just across the board, like really performing out of his skin right now.
So now I gotta ask, well, how much are we gonna pay him if we've paid Ryu $20 million a year for 4 years?
That's and it's tough to say because Bauer, Bauer has a career ERA of 3.97. Yeah. So it's like he hasn't been at this level his whole career, but he has shown stints of years back in 2018 of 2.21. Really, really good. I don't know.
Would he be up there in like the more like a Wheeler kind of era, or maybe somewhere between Wheeler and Garrett Cole?
I think it depends. It depends like how he finishes this year. Either way, like if I'm being completely realistic, I don't think that we're going to be able to afford either of these guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have the cap space.
We have the cap space, and it all depends on what the management decides to do.
Yeah.
If they feel, and maybe that state talks about how the Blue Jays finish this year. If we finish this year, and not only do we make playoffs, but we maybe even make it like a little bit of a run in the playoffs, they might be saying to themselves, hey, you know what we need? A Trevor Bauer. Let's dole out $150 million, buy the guy, and, really go for it next year.
Yeah, can you imagine, like, Ryu, then you got Bauer, and then maybe one day, like, a Nate Pearson, and then a fourth guy that we find with our, like, million pitchers that we have right now. I mean, like, that's going to be our rotation for the postseason.
That would be our kind of, this is our rotation now, and we're going with it, and yeah, so I think if we were going to dole out the money, I would prefer a Trevor Bauer, although, we're going to need to see where we're at after this year.
Yeah, like I would agree with you on the Trevor Bauer because, like, I mean, George Springer would be a nice staple in the lineup.
For sure.
It's just we have a lot of our prospects who are positional players that are coming through. Like, you think about Austin Martin. Austin Martin's definitely a piece that, like, one day, like, he could play third base, but I would love to see him play in that outfield spot, be a kind of utility guy, kind of like Biggio. That would be great.
I want to transition now to another question that we had because we're talking about contracts, we're talking about outfield. Another guy who plays outfield is Hernandez, and where do I have it? Right here.
Oh, I got it right here too.
So we got a guy coming in. He is Insta name is 4&M_cards_, and he asks, do you think the Jays should re-sign Teoscar to a long-term or short-term deal? So I'm actually just looking up right now Teoscar Hernandez's current contract to see what we have him on.
It's a rookie contract.
We have him still on the rookie contract until 2020. Like, he'll become a free agent in 2024. So we still have him on some good, like, arbitration years right now. So
we got to get him to an arbitration contract next year.
It's going to be arbitration for, like, a year.
And how much do we sign him for the arbitration, though?
Several million. I mean, for arbitration one, it's like typically you're not getting your, like, crazy money right now. But I could see us signing him to, like a 1-year arbitration of $4 million, something like that. And I think that would be more than reasonable for what he's done this year.
Yeah, this guy's been unreal this year. I mean, like, this guy is like top 99th percentile on barrel percentage, slugging, 98 in hard hit, 98 in exit velocity, 97 in expected on base average. And then his batting average expected has been top 97 percentile.
Yeah.
He's been unreal. So I think this guy is well deserving of whatever he wants in the offseason. It could be $5 million. I'd give this guy $5 million.
I'd give this guy $5 million. I think the better question is, if, for instance, he wasn't on arbitration, he was going to be an unrestricted free agent next year. Because right now I'm looking at this, and, I'm coming into this year, neither of us were high on Teoscar at all. In fact, we were very, very low on Teoscar.
Yeah.
But, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, well, with what he's done this year, and the amount of money it would cost to pay him, which wouldn't be too much considering he'd be on an arbitration, we have to ride this guy out and see if these numbers are actually legit. But if he was to be entering free agency next year, would you want him on a short year deal or would you want him on a long term?
I'd give him like 3 to 4 years. He's 27 years old. I'd give him until he's like 30, 31 years old. I think that's a fair enough assessment. I mean, like 27 is a good age for a player to start coming to his prime. And we all knew when we got Teoscar Hernandez in the first place, his potential, and he's literally hitting it this year on all fronts. And I think this guy's worth at least another 3 to 4 years. Especially if we're not going to get George Springer, let's get Teoscar Hernandez.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I think it's tough to say because his numbers it's one of those things, guys, where his numbers are so overly better than anything he's done in his career that you anticipating at least a little bit of regression. And I guess if he would regress, if we could get a solid, 270, even 260 hitter out of Teoscar with the power that he has, I certainly wouldn't be disappointed. Yeah. And I'd be okay with having him on for 3 years. Granted, we're not, we make a deal that is not just based on this year, but also takes into account what he's done in his career. We don't pay him. We don't pay him George Springer money.
Yeah, we don't pay him George Springer money. I mean, and what'd be great if we grab him for a long-term deal in the offseason. We're going to break down him, eventually soon. But, you can even see his expected batting average jump from 220 last year to 331, which is even more than what he's been doing this year.
Agreed.
And that's all because of his change of approach. Yeah. Little hint to what we're going to talk about in the future video. Yeah. But I would pay this guy less than a George Springer, but I think it'd be a great deal.
A lot of it has to do too with his hard hit rate and his expected slugging and his barrel. It's just all the metrics that have to do with hard hit rate. He is top tier in those. So
another question that I wanted to get to.
Sure.
We have Teoscar out. We have Rowdy out now. We're facing a lot of decisions in our lineup, and we talked about this. We touched on this, but I want to talk about specifically the game today. And the question comes from BlueJays.primetime, and it's, what are your options on Charlie Montoyo's decisions? And
opinions.
He meant to say opinions, but he said options.
Right.
But what are your opinions on Charlie Montoyo's decisions? And I think he's treating these guys a little too lightly. He's not treating them like professional ball players.
No.
And Randall Grichuk actually had an interview with John Boy Media yesterday about him getting an off day. And Grichuk literally said in that interview, when Montoyo comes up to him, he's like, hey, do you want an off day? He literally went, no, I do not want an off day. Of course, any professional player should say that. And he did it anyways. Charlie Montoyo did it anyways. And the thing is, Charlie Montoyo is not trusting his players to perform at the caliber that they should be playing at. And when you're giving your AL Player of the Week an off day before an off day, that's just I think you're in your head.
Gurriel now. Yeah. My problem is, and it keeps coming back, there's one big thing that he keeps doing, and he keeps batting Travis Shaw in the 3 spot.
Why are you doing that?
And I don't understand. It is not working. Travis Shaw is not performing at an elite level. And like you said, we had Gurriel popping off. Gurriel popping off. Why not bat Gurriel third, and then he gets a day off tomorrow?
It's funny because we're literally talking about Gurriel and Travis Shaw. Gurriel pinch hit for Travis Shaw in that 3rd spot when it mattered. So it just tells you that Charlie Montoyo in his head knows damn, I should be really batting Gurriel in a prime position right now. And he takes out his third hitter, which you would never do in any other lineup. You never take out your third. You pinch it for the bottom half of the lineup. But he took out Shaw. So that just shows me that he actually has buried his opinions. He's like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, but he's doing it for some analytical reason. I don't know what he's doing. But you need to trust that Gurriel, you want to see Gurriel in that third spot. You don't want to see
Kevin Biggio, Grichuk, Tellez, he's injured. Hernandez is injured. Bo Bichette injured. Guerrero, even Joe Panic right now. Villar. I'm not sure if I said Gurriel yet, but definitely him. These are all guys that I would rather have bat third than Travis Shaw. Yeah. I said Joe Panic.
Yeah,
I don't like Joe Panic, but Joe Panic, at least over the last week, 14 days, has been consistently good. Travis Shaw has not been consistent. Get it in your head, Charlie Montoyo. Yeah. Bat him late.
I think we're going to post a photo soon on our Instagram, but in that ideal lineup when everyone's healthy, Travis Shaw is not in that ideal lineup. No. VR is batting in the 8th spot, and then Jansen rounds it out. And Tellez is batting in the 7th spot. So there's no room for Travis Shaw anywhere.
I have no interest in him. I want to transition to, because that question kind of leads into something that my dad actually asked, Gregory Palaylog on Instagram. He said, you guys rightly came down hard on the players for the insane number of base running errors so far this season. But what about the coaches? Why aren't they accountable on this? And what should they be doing to get these stupid mistakes out of the team? Number one is a little bit more firepower from Charlie Montoyo.
Yeah,
I don't see anything from this guy.
Yeah, I mean, like, baseball managers are notorious for being laid back, whatever, but they only get fired up when an umpire makes a decision on the field and they yell at him. But even then, he doesn't do anything. He kind of reminds me of like a even more laid back John Gibbons, and John Gibbons was pretty laid back.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: they made a report that Montoya and some other coaches talked to the position players about their base running mistakes, and they said, remember, be smart, but be aggressive. And, like, that doesn't mean anything. You could tell anyone that. You could tell a 5-year-old that. But what you need to do is you have to start disciplining, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And I think they need to start doing that whenever they make stupid mistakes. And today we saw a small glimmer of hope when Jonathan VR didn't run out a pop fly on the infield, and Montoya walks over, pulls down his mask, and says something, da-da-da-da-da, puts it up, and then walks back. I mean, that was... Ooh,
yeah, that was the highlight. I think, first off, what do they need to be doing here? They need to be addressing this in practices. They need to be looking at the base running errors and fixing them, not just ignoring them and hoping that they go away. And a lot of times there's been, a lot of excuses thrown around. Oh, we haven't had a full off season. Oh, we, had COVID. And I completely and utterly understand that up until a point. We are now more than 40 games into the season. These, growing pains should at this point, I think, be sorted.
Guys, you've been playing baseball your entire life.
Yes.
How is it not ingrained in your head when a ball hits the dirt, you have to instantly, A, make a decision. Do I run or do I not? The answer 99% of the time should be run. Mm-hmm. I run. If I see the ball hit the dirt, my instant reaction should be run. I don't care if you're fast or slow, you're going to get there most of the time. A large percentage of the time. And there's so many situations that you go over in practice that it should be instant gut reaction. And if you're not doing that, and I agree, you should be doing that before the game. You should literally have a base running practice.
Yeah.
Don't ignore fielding, ignore hitting. Have a base running practice. Go through every situation that we have messed up on and get it right.
Yeah, get it right and make sure it doesn't happen again. Okay, we got a couple more here. I really like this one because it makes me think a bit, and but it comes from Dodgers insider underscore, and he asks, would you accept Gavin Lux for Cavan Biggio? For me, the answer is yes.
My answer is no.
All right.
I have a different reason why.
I'm interested to hear your answer then. My answer is Gavin Lux was the MLB's number 2 ranked prospect in all of MLB. That's really, really good. He's 22 years old. He's shown in the minors that he is an elite talent at baseball. And even though he hasn't done incredibly so far in the majors, he has only had 107 at-bats. And his batting average is very similar to that of Cavan Biggio's, 2 years younger. And the prospect pedigree is huge on this guy. I think it's kind of, it's just one of those trades where I love Cavan Biggio and I love what he's been doing. I just think that, we'd be getting like a player of much higher ceiling in Gavin Lux. No knock to Cavan Biggio. They also play the same position at second base.
Yeah, for me, it has to do with the amount of offense that Cavan Biggio creates. This guy is incredible at bats. His ability to be his lead. He's proven to me this season that he is a leadoff hitter. He is by far the most perfect leadoff hitter I've ever seen playing baseball. Like literally his at bats alone. I'm just whipping up right now. His swing take profile generates 14 runs just by his ability to take at bats. Gavin Lux is 1. He generates 1 run. And again, all short sample size. These are young rookies, but Cavan Biggio, has been grown up with other players who have big league dads, so that's chemistry there already. I'm a big fan of big grown star talent, and just picturing Cavan Biggio traded for Gavin Lux, like picturing that would just feel like uneasy. It wouldn't feel right, and I just love Cavan Biggio's approach to the plate way too much to just give up. Straight up.
Well, I don't think it's giving up though to be trading away for like what is supposed to be, an elite prospect, right?
It's supposed to be
like
right?
literally like like Guerrero was number 1. Consider that this guy is number 2. Would you would you have traded away Biggio for Guerrero?
And here's the thing, maybe, but based on what we've seen this season, Biggio has proven that he's a staple on this team.
Biggio has been doing extremely well.
Gavin Lux hasn't proven that he's a staple on the team.
No, and like I said, he's had 107 at-bats, very short sample size. We'll see if Gavin Lux develops into the elite player that people project. If he does, I think that it's Gavin Lux. If not, then Cavan Biggio, with what he's been doing and his ability to take pitches, is probably the right choice. I think we have, or for me anyways, I have 2 more questions.
2 more, yeah.
One of them is pretty simple, but let's talk about one right now coming from Not After 30 podcast, and that is the Jansen McGuire combo working, or do they need a vet in? Seems like Jansen has a hard time catching Ryu, and it seems like the Blue Jays have already kind of answered this question by bringing a vet in.
Reese McGuire got sent down, and replacing him is Caleb Joseph.
Yeah,
which I already love that decision in itself.
Yeah,
to bring someone else in the mix.
Yeah, Reese McGuire was just so abysmally awful this year. He had to get sent down. I know that he was, kind of heralded as like a pretty solid catching prospect as far as hitting goes. But he showed absolutely none of that this year, hitting below, 100, hitting like .073. And like honestly, Danny Jansen has not been doing much better. Like he had that great grand slam the other game.
That's it.
But we haven't really seen a lot of offensive production from Danny Jansen.
Yeah, like his offensive numbers have gone down. Now, granted, these are different at bats and plate appearances, but 247 in 2018, 207 in 2019, 149 in 2020, and that's why, honestly, like no one's asked this, but an idea guy that I would love to see, and his contract's up at the end of the season. It would cost a lot, but it'd be GT Realmuto, and that problem would be instantly solved for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, that would be a godsend, right? Like we'd be getting literally like the current and active best player at their position. I mean, if I'm being realistic, I guess like we have to bring a vet in just because like these guys, like between the two of them, have an average of like literally 100. Like it's just an absolutely dead spot on the lineup. They can't be playing this bad. You got to hope that Jansen also was talked about as being a really good catching prospect. And his defense has been pretty good, but in this question, it also says he has had a hard time catching Ryu. Yeah. And we've seen that. We've seen Ryu shaking him off, and their chemistry is not where it needs to be as a catcher and a pitcher. And we've talked I've heard Buck Martinez speak a lot about, their chemistry and how it needs to grow and develop and get better. Yeah. I mean, like we should get a better catcher.
Yeah, and even if it means getting another prospect, which we have one in the works, or signing one in the off season, just give us one.
Yeah, I wouldn't even mind like making a small trade for one that is, just some like even just like a 200 average. Like that would be much better than what we're getting. Like
literally,
I would totally
give me Russell Martin back.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, like
not now, Russell Martin, but
right
before Russell Martin, I would take him. I was complaining about him so much in 2015, but you know what?
Was he like better or worse?
Way better than Danny Jansen.
Yeah,
McGuire. It's way better.
It's tough. Yeah, either way, like the catcher situation kind of sucks right now, and regardless of what we do, we need to do something. So
our last question.
Yeah, you want to ask this one, considering it comes from
a guy with a name called J3.
Oh, that was not the question I was referring to.
Yeah.
I was referring to the one coming from your mom, but I guess we have two more questions.
Well, there's two more questions. J3 goes, how are the Jays going to replace Hernandez's production in their lineup? And my initial reaction 2 days ago was Rowdy Tellez. We need Rowdy Tellez back in the lineup more because he's getting benched by Montoyo.
Yeah.
Now it's not Rowdy Tellez. So
Rowdy is now on the IL. Sadly.
So how do we replace him? Well, first of all, Bo Bichette. He's got to come back. We need Bo Bichette back to replace both of those guys. And second of all, we need people to get hot. We need Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to get hot.
I really do think that the biggest piece here is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He went through a phase where he was starting to get hot, and now he has gotten really cold again. And I think they showed it today. He was batting like 179 through his last 10 games or something like that. Either way, he's just not performing at the level that, we need from him, and that, we were hoping for out of him. And Hernandez really stepped up. Yeah. Rowdy Tellez was starting to step up. Gurriel has stepped up. Yeah. Biggio has looked better, and Bichette has stepped up. The person who has not stepped up at all, but has actually taken a step back, has been Guerrero this season, and he's supposed to be the guy to lead this team to a potential World Series one day.
Yeah, he's got to be our power bat, and if there's any time to step up, it's going to be now. So I think the last third of our season, we got to be looking at Guerrero, and I feel bad for the guy, honestly, the fact that everyone has him under a microscope because of his prospect potential. He's just a kid. He's still 21. And, I wouldn't be surprised if next year all of a sudden you see a big blow up, or even the year after that. This kid just has a lot of pressure on him, but I would love to see a little bit more production, at least something like 300 average mark in the last half.
It's just, like we bat him, fourth a lot of the times.
Fourth, fifth, sixth, around that
it's like
drive-in area.
In there, like we need to be like even if the average is low, if you could give me the home runs or you could give me, some power, some doubles, but they're not coming right now for Vlad. So I would say we need to get that production by having him hopefully step up.
And last question.
The last question comes from Too Cold Alana. That is Adam's mom.
Yeah.
And she asks, if you had to do a podcast for another sport and team, what would it be?
I guess it would have to be Toronto Maple Leafs.
We were talking about one day maybe, even expanding, to touching on the Maple Leafs. So yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Monday.
Yeah, one day, far down the line. But yeah, we know a lot about the Maple Leafs. Obviously, like I'm sure that some of our fans and subscribers are also fans of the Maple Leafs, considering that Toronto. I would love to do a podcast one day on the Toronto Maple Leafs, maybe even the Toronto Raptors if we get into it deep enough.
Yeah, it'd have to be one of those things where we're making full-time money. We're doing this all the way.
Yeah, it's literally like that would be the time that this turns into our job.
Yeah, it'd be like the Toronto podcast.
Yes.
The Toronto Sports Podcast.
Yes.
Toronto Today.
Yeah, Toronto Sports Today,
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that, and we'd be pretty much just doing this. Now, I work roughly 40 hours a week.
Yeah, same.
Adam does roughly the same. That's good and all, and I'm happy I have a job, but it'd be great if that job was this.
Yeah,
so.
this is where, if we're making money for ourselves, that'd be the way to go.
Awesome.
That'd be the way to go.
Awesome.
Anyways, guys, so that's our Q&A. Thank you guys so much for sending in all your questions. We would love to do this again. Let us know what you guys think about the questions. Let us know what you guys think about our responses. If anyone disagrees with us, let us know in the comments down below.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. I feel like we should definitely do this again. Maybe even hop on the live sometime and get you guys asking questions on our toes. But please make sure to check us out on our Spotify, Breaker, Anchor, Radio Public, and Google Podcasts. And also subscribe and check us out on our Instagram. If we do end up doing something like that, we'll definitely be posting it on there and giving you guys some notice so you can pound us with the hard ones and get us. Literally complete accident. Literally complete accident.
Thank you guys so much for watching.
And go, Jays, go.